If it's a legitimate rape, the female body has ways to try to shut that whole thing down.
I'm not a witch. I'm nothing you've heard.
Even when life begins in that horrible situation of rape, that it is something that God intended to happen.
If you didn't hear it, you couldn't believe it. Well, if you remember them, and if you're a Republican, those three Senate nominees feel more like the ghosts of Christmas past. All three arguably cost their parties seats in the Senate because they were really bad candidates. And there is a new crop of Republican bad candidates out there that could be big trouble as the GOP desperately tries to hold the House and Senate this November. And Andrew, they're causing the party migraines.
They are, and even if they don't actually cost the party any seats at this point, they are already grab the popcorn level entertainment for political watchers. Let's start in Indiana, where the last guy we just heard from cost the GOP the Hoosier State Senate seat in 2012, which led to the election of this man, Democrat Joe Donnelly. Donnelly should be on the hottest of hot seats, given how conservative Indiana has become. 3 Republicans are in the race to unseat him, including Congressmen Todd Rokita and Luke Messer. They both have a few strikes against them. Both have drunk driving arrests in their background. Both hated Donald Trump at one time, calling him vulgar and race baiting. And both are currently in Congress. That's not good in Indiana. Enter Mike Braun, a businessman and outsider who was once a registered Democrat and worked to make sure his businesses got big-time tax breaks from the state. That gives him a lot in common with President Trump. But with Trump unpopular in Indiana, would a Trump mini-me win this seat for a Democrat again? We may well find out. There could be a similar phenomenon playing out in a House race right here in New York City. Say hi to the only Republican congressman from the city, Staten Island's Dan Donovan, but you may have to say goodbye soon. Donovan is being challenged by former Congressman Michael Grimm, and Grimm leads by 10 in a recent Democratic-funded poll. But Grimm has just a wee bit of baggage to him. He's the same Michael Grimm who was caught on camera threatening to throw a New York One reporter over a balcony. By the way, if you squint real hard, you can see me on the other side of the rotunda in the back of that shot with that light on the left. That's me. Anyway, he's also the same Michael Grimm who went to prison pleading guilty to tax evasion and admitted to hiring workers at his restaurant that he knew were ineligible to work here, or as Grimm would probably call them, illegal immigrants. Grimm is also bear-hugging President Trump and hoping to ride the comb over back to Congress. He's already had a fundraiser with Steve Bannon. Now Anthony Scaramucci is scheduled to do the same. This primary is going to get entertaining, believe me. Just listen to part of Donovan's first radio ad against Grimm. It is delicious.
Inmate 834-79053, convict Congressman Michael Grimm.
Crimes committed by convict Congressman Grimm: 20 counts of fraud, guilty. Perjury, guilty. Hiring illegal aliens, guilty.
That just sounds bad. The real beneficiary in the 11th district may be this man, Max Rose. He's the endorsed Democrat in the race and would likely face the winner of the Donovan-Grimm bloodbath this November. We're going to have a profile of Rose coming up soon on RFL. Then there's the woman who may be the luckiest senator in recent history, at least when it comes to elections, Claire McCaskill of Missouri. She was dead senator walking 6 years ago, expected to lose her seat bigly. But then came Todd Akin, the legitimate rape guy we heard earlier, and McCaskill won re-election. This year, her likely opponent is this man, Josh Hawley. He is the state attorney general. On paper, he is a strong Republican candidate and should probably beat McCaskill. There's just one problem, and that problem is this man, Missouri Governor Eric Greitens. Greitens is facing felony charges for taking and sharing non-consensual photos of a partly nude woman, and now faces allegations he coaxed a woman into non-consensual sex. He could face impeachment, but he is fighting every step, and Hawley, the attorney general, is one of the men leading the investigation. The two men are now feuding publicly, which could potentially make matters worse and help McCaskill even more. Stay tuned. But the best bad candidate in the nation right now may be in West Virginia, where Democratic Senator and former Governor Joe Manchin is hoping to cling to his seat in a state that Trump carried by 42 points. But he's not the bad candidate. That guy is this guy, Don Blankenship. Don's a wealthy businessman in the coal industry, so coal, West Virginia, he's the next senator, automatic, right? Blankenship is the former CEO of Massey Energy, which owned the Upper Big Branch mine, site of a coal mine blast in 2010 that killed 29 miners. Massey was found at fault and Blankenship went to prison. Republicans are so worried about his candidacy, a Republican-leaning group put out this ad.
convicted criminal Don Blankenship.
This game is about money.
Blankenship made $17.3 million one year and traveled the country on a private jet. At the same time, he cut the pay and benefits of miners 6% and laid off hundreds. Then the Upper Big Branch disaster killed 29 men.
By the way, convicted convict coming up a lot in these ads. Blankenship correctly believes that Senate GOP leader Mitch McConnell wants him nowhere near the ballot this fall, so he's now attacking McConnell and doing it as only a bad candidate can do. Telling Politico in an interview, quote, McConnell has a lot of connections in China, and McConnell's wife, who by the way is Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao, is from China, so we really have to be concerned that we are in truth putting America's interests first. Chao, by the way, was born in Taiwan. That's the democratic pro-West China, where both her parents escaped to during the Chinese Civil War. But Blankenship didn't stop there. He recently produced an anti-McConnell ad called Cocaine Mitch. Again, targeting a guy he's not even running against. That ad has since been taken down. Rich, I wonder why. I wonder why I can't find that ad anywhere.
Cocaine and Mitch McConnell, not usually a phrase you see put together.
That would be the first time ever.
Okay, but is the troubling part about this that these guys have the best chance to win? I mean, Dan Donovan, he's had an uneventful term in Congress. He's voted ways against the administration. You would think, you know, Staten Island, he should win. The idea that Grimm has an appeal when he's wrapped his arms around Steve Bannon, we don't have to go to West Virginia and places to try and figure out the electorate. What does that tell us? The base really still likes Trump.
There's 35% of our country that is going to stick with Trump. That's what we've seen. And you forgot about the guy who came out against Feinstein this past weekend and said Jews should be forced to leave the country.
And he's running second right now.
And don't forget, Roy Moore is contesting his lost election. So it's hard to make these guys up. They're sort of caricatures of themselves, but they come from the top. And what enabled the wave that brought Trump in, which Bannon was part of creating, this fear of others, has created these very corrupt in many cases and socially unacceptable and in many other cases candidates. But the interesting dynamic is that this 35% stays with Trump, but what's happened in our political dynamics that you started to see in 2017, and you'll certainly see it in 2018, people that were never involved in the political process are coming out to vote. And that's why the media so badly underestimated what happened here locally in Westchester with Latimer's win and what likely will happen in 2018. These are people that probably didn't even show up for the presidential election and typically don't vote, are so upset by what's happening in our country generally and the attack on our democracy that they're becoming politically engaged and getting to the polls. So that dynamic is going to change things nationally for these Senate races.
Do you think that base is there no matter what because they believe in some of the real ugly stuff we hear? Or is it that they finally feel that they've been talked down to, they feel marginalized or put down by the quote-unquote elites from the coasts, and anyone who pushes back against those folks, they're with? Which one is it? Do they buy what they're selling, or they just want to be against whoever they can be against?
Well, there was a study out by UPenn last week, and the conventional wisdom after the election in 2016 is it was about jobs, and what it turns out is people didn't like the fact that our country wasn't going to be predominantly white. So there's a lot of racism at play and a hatred of others, and the fact that our country doesn't look like it did in the 1950s. So a coal magnet might have a certain appeal. Yep. What Trump is doing in West Virginia, for example, taking away so many protections for the coal miners, and there's been a sharp rise in the amount of health problems since he took office. They don't necessarily care or understand at the micro level how rights are being taken away from them. They see someone as authentic and that speaks for them, but that voice that speaks for them is in old America.
I have to disagree with Amy a little bit. And first of all of this is coming to a theater near you, so stay tuned for this horror show. But I was actually out in the Midwest doing college shopping and have a biracial family. I'll make the story very short. We had an Uber driver who supported Kasich to begin with, and then ended up supporting Trump. We were talking about all this stuff, and he was talking about the election, and I just want to make sure we got to dinner safely, frankly, to be honest with you. But at the end of the day, he was listening to a talk show, and a Muslim woman was talking, and basically he said, and I was thinking about this woman, and she should just go back where she came from. Now, the reason why that was eye-opening to me is he felt that I was one of him with a biracial family. So it's not just about race in the way that everybody's looking at it. So I don't think it is that simple. And for us to make it that simple between black and white, going back to your point, it is that yes, there are these feelings that are confused, but to make it sort of that, you know, us against them, black against white, I think almost simplifies it too much. There are people who voted for Obama who also voted for Trump. And it is about feeling like they have been marginalized and that people haven't talked to them regardless of race. It's about class, it is about elites, and I think that that is very important that we should be mindful of. And within the Democratic Party, we need to understand that. And talking about what, not necessarily wedge issues, but issues that are further out and actually going back to this. And one of the things I think on the Republican side that they need to worry about is if all they do is sort of become inauthentic and say, we're for Trump no matter what, they're going to miss the point, because these very same voters are going to say, these guys are full of crap, just they're elites also who are just trying to get us too. They need some authenticity.
A smart guy said, you know, all you guys just bang on Trump every day. And I try and avoid these conversations like the plague when I don't have to, and I'm like, it gives a lot of material, you know? And he said, well, he goes, why don't you try and help him and try? I go, let me ask you something. I know you didn't vote for Obama. Did you think it was the other guy's job to try and help Obama where you thought he was falling on policy? He goes, absolutely not. And I said, so why is it different now, really? And he goes, because the world's changing so goddamn fast, at least Trump's trying to slow it down. Meaning about the change. Well,
and I didn't mean to just say it's race.
Right. Oh, no.
I mean, it's if you follow my weekly list,
but
I want to ask every marginalized community.
A practical question with a clock, which is, Republicans have a choice on the national level. I know all politics are local. Okay, get that out of the way. They have to decide. Just like Roy Moore was untenable and they said, we're not going to go here. Some of these people are going to merge out of the primaries. And they're going to either have to decide, we're going to look the other way, or they're going to say, no, you don't carry our brand, because Trump, no matter what, will be gone in a certain number of years. And he's hijacked the brand. Does that start this fall or not?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think this is going to be a get-out-your-base election. And I think if Republicans turn their back on Trump, they're going to lose what support they have going in. There's definitely a team mentality going here. And I think most Republicans are going to try to ride Trump as far as they can.
When does that become a Pyrrhic victory where they say we can't get this thing back? A lot of Republicans are saying what I'm saying.
I think it's after the midterms.
I think it's this year. That's number one. That's why everyone's fleeing. You got 43 Republicans who are leaving, either running for something else or leaving. I mean, Ryan is like, I'm getting that.
But their successors are going to stay loyal to Trump.
All right. Now, so we talk Republicans. On the other side of the break, we're going to take a look at the Democrats and whether or not they could be looking to split in their party, and as they try to get the House in November, how they're going to navigate what I believe is a real divide. Stay with us.